not be feeling like winter where I live, but it feels like winter in my heart. So today I'm going to be talking about the best thriller books to read in the winter. I love a cozy thriller. I love a snowy setting. I love an isolated atmosphere. I just love the wintry feeling in my mystery, thriller, horror, suspense, all of those types of books. So today I'm going to be recommending a couple books that I think would be really great to read in the winter. These books are either set in the snow, they have an isolated setting, or they just have some kind of cold atmosphere feel to them. So let's just jump on in. First up, of course, we have No Exit by Taylor Adams. It is not a winter thriller book recommendation video if you're not talking about No Exit. This is one of my favorite thrillers. You've probably heard me talk about it before, but in case you're new to my channel or in case you're new to the thriller community, the thriller book community, let me just tell you, you have to pick up No Exit. This also has a movie adaptation on Hulu now, so you could also watch the movie after, which I thought was a pretty solid adaptation, but I will admit there's been years between me reading the book and watching the movie, so I kind of forgot all the details and I wasn't doing a one-to-one comparison of how true of an adaptation it was, but I did think it was a good watch at the time. But anyways, in the story you're following this girl who is driving home from college and she gets stuck in a snowstorm. She can't drive anymore, so she pulls over to this rest stop where there are a few other people who are also there and they get snowed in together at the rest stop. The main character ends up going outside to try to get service on her phone, and she ends up seeing something in a van that looks like there is a child locked into a van, and then she gets really nervous about the people that she is stuck at this rest stop with and what they are up to. This is such an intense, fast-paced, fun, exciting thriller. I feel like almost everyone who reads it loves it. It is so well done. It is the perfect book to read in the winter. Next up, we have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. In this story, you're following this couple who is going out to this isolated cabin in the snow for a little romantic getaway. They're trying to restore their marriage, but they also both seem to be coming to this retreat with secrets, maybe ulterior motives, and there also may be someone else watching them. This one has a great isolated snowy setting, and it's also just a really fun, twisty time. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what's going on in this marriage. You just know it's not going to go good. It is just so fun to watch, and also such a good one to cozy up with, because even just look at the cover. Like, these are the vibes you're getting in this. Nice, snowy, isolated atmosphere. It is wonderful. Next up, we have The Long Weekend by Jilly McMillan. I actually can't remember the season of this one and if it's cold. I feel like I remember it being set in the fall, but I listened to this one on audiobook. I don't have a physical copy to flip back to check, but this is a great isolated setting story. You're following this group of friends who is going to this cabin. They're going to be in this like isolated, nice little private getaway, and it's supposed to be this couples trip where they're bringing their husbands along too, but last minute the guys aren't going to be able to go all at the same time, and so the women go the night before and they're just gonna have a girls' night the night before, and then the next day the husbands are going to show up and it's going to be nice, good weekend. But once the women arrive, they find a note that says one of their husbands is going to be murdered. They don't know who sent that note, if it's true, what's going to happen, and what was supposed to be a fun, relaxing, long weekend turns into a nightmare. I had pretty high expectations going into this book because I thought it sounded so intriguing, and so it didn't end up being a personal favorite for me, but I do still think it's worth checking out if it sounds interesting to you. It does have a really nice isolated atmosphere to it. It's twisty, you don't know who to trust, you don't know what's going on, and it was a pretty good audiobook listen as well if you're interested in picking up the audiobook. Next up, we have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. I just recently read this one, and again, this isn't one that I absolutely personally loved, but I did have a good enough time with it, and it does take place over the holiday season, so it would be a good one to read during the wintry times. You see Thanksgiving and the Christmassy times throughout this book. You're following this woman who has been dating this man for a while, and now she's going to be meeting his family for the first time over the holiday season. They are extremely rich. His family has a ton of money, and she's a little intimidated by that. And then once she meets them, they start to play all these weird games, and she doesn't know what she's gotten herself into with this family. The guy's dad gives her this tape, which she thinks is going to be like a book he wrote or something to listen to, but it turns out to be this really horrifying confession, and she doesn't know why he gave her this and what's going on, what kind of games they're playing with her. And so you follow her through the holiday season with this crazy rich family just trying to make it out alive. This one's not the most wintry book, but it does take place over the holiday season. It's like a wintry New York. Then there's like a little house that they go to. So there is some winter stuff sprinkled in there, but mostly just with the holidays. This one fits around that kind of timing. Next up, a super snowy book. We have a One by One by Ruth Ware. This is a story set at this resort chalet location out in the snowy mountains. You're following this company who is going there for a work retreat. And then while they're there, there's an avalanche. They get snowed in there and then they all start getting ticked off one by one. I love a good locked room mystery when you've just got a set of characters that are just stuck in this one area. People keep dying. You don't know who it is, but it's got to be someone who's right there in that circle too. This one's a ton of fun, very fast paced, some wild scenes towards the end. Not the best thriller I've ever read, but it's a good time and it definitely has a really good wintry atmosphere. Next up, we have The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. This is a story that is set at this place that is an abandoned sanatorium that has been renovated into this 5-star resort. You're following this woman named Ellen whose brother invites her to come to this resort with him and his fiance. Her and her brother are estranged. They haven't been talking a lot lately, so this is a chance for her to come reconnect with him. But once she comes, and then of course they get snowed in, they get stuck there, she starts to have some hesitations about what's going on. The next morning they wake up and the fiance is missing, and again it's like a locked room. You don't know where she could have gone, can't be too far, and someone right there has to have probably been involved in it. This is another one that's not a huge personal favorite of mine, but it is a fun one. It is set in the snowy atmosphere and I had a good enough time with it. This author is also continuing this into a series because the main character Ellen is a detective or a former detective in the story, and so it follows Ellen throughout solving some other cases. There's at least a second book out right now as well, so if you're looking for a detective series to read too, this could be a good place to start. And then the last two books I have to talk about aren't super thrillery. They're more mystery, suspense, literary, but they have great atmosphere to them and they are certainly worth mentioning. The first one is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaghy. In this story, you're following this woman Inti and her twin sister Aggie, who are going out into Scotland because Inti is going to be helping to rehabilitate a pack of wolves. She is really passionate about taking care of these wolves. She's also really passionate about protecting her sister. And when they are there and she is working with the wolves, someone ends up dead and the whole town is blaming the wolves, and she gets put in this place of trying to figure out how to protect the wolves. Who really killed the person? Was it the wolves? Was it someone else? Is there a different threat? Can she continue taking care of her sister? She has all these compounding factors coming on her at once, and I just absolutely love Charlotte McConaghy's writing. I love the characters she creates. I love the atmosphere she creates. This is a perfect book to soak into in a cozy winter time. Like, get a blanket, have a fire going, have a little mug of coffee or hot chocolate. It is just a beautiful, beautiful book, and it is one you can definitely cozy up to. I would also recommend Migrations by Charlotte McConaghy, which I also love, which is also sort of like a wintry, cold atmosphere type book as well. But for some reason, this one feels even a little bit more wintry to me, but they're both amazing. You can't go wrong with either of them. And then lastly, we have These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. In this story, you're following this guy Cooper and his daughter Finch, who live in this remote cabin out in the Appalachian Mountains. They have been living off the grid for a long time, and you don't really know why. There's some kind of mystery to their past to be unsolved. But they live completely off the grid. No one knows where they are except for this one person who is a friend of Cooper's who comes once a year to bring them a lot of groceries, a big haul to get them throughout the year. But this year, when you're following them in the story, that guy doesn't show up. And so Cooper is going to have to figure out how to continue to take care of his daughter, if he's going to have to venture out into the world, what he will have to do. He's also got this mysterious neighbor, and he's just trying to hide and protect his daughter. This one has an amazing isolated mountain setting. It is a very emotional story. It is more of a mystery suspense, not so much a thriller, so don't go in expecting fast-paced plot twists, but it is just so beautiful. Another one that you can definitely cozy up to this winter. So that is it for all the books I have to recommend that are wintry thriller, mystery, suspense books. If you have any other recommendations, definitely let me know down in the comments below, because I would love to get some new ones in this year. Also, let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about and what you think about them. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!